In a small village with a population of about 100 people, there lived two twin boys. Their mother did not raise them, so they always behaved badly. Everyone in the village knew these twins and called them evil because terrible things often happened because of them. They were suspected of damaging cars, stealing wallets from old people, and even killing cats and dogs, but the police could not prove it. One Sunday, an old man died at his home. While the priest and the undertaker stood outside waiting for the car that would transport the body to the cemetery, the twins approached the house and looked in the window. They became very curious to see the dead old man up close. The boys sneaked into the house and began to play with the corpse. One of them opened and closed his mouth like a rag doll, while the other propped open his eyelids with matches. While they were having fun, they heard approaching footsteps in the house. Frightened, they put the corpse back in the coffin. Not finding a place to hide, they climbed into the coffin with the deceased and covered themselves with the lid. The undertakers loaded the coffin into the car and took it to the cemetery. They noticed that the coffin was heavier than usual, but did not give it much thought. When the coffin was being lowered into the grave, the twins' mother arrived and began asking if anyone had seen her sons. They had been missing for 5 hours. Everyone started talking when the man carrying the coffin remembered that it was very heavy and suggested that the boys might have climbed in. They raised the coffin from the grave and opened it. Inside, on top of the deceased, lay the twins. The corpse's hands were tightly clasped around their necks. They had been strangled. There are people who say whatever comes to their mind, without caring that they might offend someone. The most surprising thing is that they genuinely don't understand that they are doing something wrong. My friend is exactly like that, and his story is a lesson. You really need to think about what you say and to whom. Jack was known for being uncooperative even in school. He didn't care who he was talking to. He could calmly tell the history teacher that his subject was boring and that he taught it terribly, so Jack wouldn't study it. Jack always managed to say something inappropriate. Once I witnessed how badly he treated a mutual acquaintance of ours. She was a chubby but very cute girl. I knew she couldn't lose weight. Jack told her such things that she didn't leave the house for 2 weeks afterwards. I confronted him about it, and he looked at me strangely and asked, "What did I say?" She is really fat. And people like her have health problems later on, with their heart. She needs to lose weight. I told the truth, I don't understand what's wrong. I was very angry. Jack had few friends, only me and a couple of other kids from our block. We grew up together, have been friends since childhood, so we were used to it. My mom used to say that life would eventually teach Jack to hold his tongue, but I found it hard to believe. Despite his character, Jack did well in school and got into college, but he had problems there too. I moved to another city to study, so I heard about Jack's life from my parents. Our moms were longtime friends. One day, my mom told me that Jack had been beaten up. A girl decided to approach him and invite him to a party. I could easily imagine how he had turned her down. He must have said something like, "You're covered in pimples." A couple of days later in the evening, Jack was ambushed and beaten up. Mom was sure that after this Jack would be more careful, but nothing changed. When I came home for vacation, Jack called me and, as often happened before, asked to talk. I wasn't surprised that he would ask me this question again. "Tell me, how do you know if what you're saying is wrong?" I tried to draw a parallel. "Think about whether what you're going to say would hurt you," I advised Jack. But no, that didn't work. It was impossible to offend him. Jack knew his shortcomings well and didn't care about any attacks directed at him. He could say something like, "Yes, I know, but I'm too lazy to deal with this problem. Maybe I'll solve it later, but right now it's not important to me." And so I sat there, explaining literally on my fingers what exactly could hurt a person, saying that you shouldn't discuss or openly talk about someone's physical flaws, about what could hurt a person. He looked at me like a calf and I realized that it was all in vain. Well, he would remember that you shouldn't call someone fat, but that has to be felt. He wouldn't point out someone's weight directly, but he would say they should go on a diet and list several diets. After graduating, Jack went to work. I think it's not worth saying that he got fired from his first job within 2 weeks. I hadn't explained to him that you shouldn't tell people that they're as dumb as a post, especially if those people are close relatives of the director. He lasted a bit longer at his second job, 6 months. His parents were worried, and Jack's mom often complained to mine that he wasn't doing well with girls either. No one had enough patience to get used to him. At first, he held back, but then he would forget and start saying what he thought again. But about 3 years ago, everything changed. He got a job at a serious company as a system administrator. It was a job that didn't require constant communication with colleagues, exactly what the doctor ordered. But he couldn't completely isolate himself from people. One time, there was a glitch in the accounting department, where a woman worked whom the entire team called a witch. Everyone was afraid of her. Jack had told me about her, wondering how people could believe that a person could bring misfortune with just a word. I didn't explain anything, thinking that Jack was basically right, but it turned out to be a bit different. One day, this woman accidentally deleted an important document. Well, Jack, as usual, didn't change. He yelled at her for a long time, explaining how stupid she was, gave a whole lecture on where to keep your hands when you don't understand how a program works, and did this in front of everyone. This woman got angry and finally told him something like, "Words are silver, silence is golden, so stay silent until you learn to hold your tongue." That evening was the last time Jack and I talked. Literally the next day he came down with some sort of cold, and it mainly affected his vocal cords. Jack lost his voice. Since then, he only opens his mouth like a fish, but no sounds come. Doctors say his voice may never return. A couple of years passed, and Jack and I kept in touch through writing. He wrote that he had met a girl. Perhaps it's good that he has this problem. He won't hurt anyone with careless words anymore. And work became easier. Do everything silently and leave. Maybe it's good that Jack has such a character. He accepts everything as it is. Therefore, he lives easily now and doesn't regret losing his voice in his later years.